Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in today to the Lake Champlain Regional Conservation Partnership Program webinar. My name is Allie Campagna and I am the Vermont Department of Environmental Conservation's Regional Conservation Partnership Program, RCPP, Project Coordinator. The Lake Champlain RCPP journey began in October of 2014 when the state of Vermont submitted a grant proposal for the accelerated implementation of agricultural and forestry conservation practices in the Lake Champlain watershed of Vermont and New York through the USDA Natural Resource Conservation Services Regional Conservation Partnership Program, RCPP. In April of 2015, the state of Vermont, in partnership with 25 organizations, agencies, businesses, and nonprofits, was awarded the second largest grant in the country, totaling $16 million. In addition, over 25 partners are contributing more than $20 million of match to this effort. The Lake Champlain RCPP will help landowners in the Lake Champlain Basin of Vermont and New York invest in conservation practices to improve water quality. The intended participants for this effort are those agricultural producers that have been most underserved in the past and will ensure the greatest cost benefit for water quality improvement through agronomic practices, forestry, wetlands, or easement programs, depending on the individual site-specific need. The Lake Champlain RCPP is unique in that it is fostering many partnerships in the name of water quality. Partners include federal and state agencies and programs, technical assistance providers, land conservation groups, private businesses, nonprofits, co-ops, watershed groups, farmer groups, educational institutions, and beyond. Of the many RCPP partners, many have contributed substantial match to the RCPP program. Thank you for helping to make improving Vermont's waters a reality. There are two other RCPP grant agreements that will help to improve Vermont's waters. Partners might be part of other agreements and know that we are communicating to ensure efficiencies and coordination. There is the Nutrient Management Training Program for farmers and Conservation Practice Implementation Follow-up through the Vermont Association of Conservation Districts. This $800,000 grant is so that VACD, in partnership with 14 Natural Resource Conservation Districts, UVM Extension, and NRCS, can assist small livestock farm operations in the development of nutrient management plans to improve water quality by reducing phosphorus and other nutrient loading from small livestock farm operations in the Lake Champlain Basin and beyond. The VACD RCPP flyer will be available in the email zip file. In addition, there is the Long Island Sound Watershed Development of Whole Farm Management Certainty Program through the Connecticut Council on Soil and Water Conservation. This $10 million grant will develop a comprehensive whole farm certainty program for farmers in the area. The project will cover multiple programs in 6 states, but in Vermont will focus on conservation practice education and implementation with UVM Extension and nutrient management plans with VACD, all in the Connecticut River watershed. Additional information about these RCPP efforts can be found on the Vermont NRCS website. Just follow the URL at the bottom of the slide. Now we're going to switch gears and get back to the specifics about the Lake Champlain RCPP. The Lake Champlain RCPP is a 5-year program which began May 1st, 2015 and will end May 1st, 2020. There is about $7 million in EQIP funding for agricultural and forestry best management practices in the Lake Champlain Basin of Vermont and $1 million in the Lake Champlain Basin of New York. There is about $4 million for agricultural and forestry land conservation easements in the Lake Champlain Basin of Vermont. There is about $1 million for wetland restoration projects in the Lake Champlain Basin of Vermont. And in addition to this financial assistance money, there is about $3 million for technical assistance, which is split between NRCS and technical service providers to help get these conservation and best management practices on the ground. Program eligibility and target watersheds. Conserved lands, this means lands that have sold their development rights and will remain in agricultural use for perpetuity, that fall within the Lake Champlain Basin's 3 target watersheds of St. Albans Bay, Missisquoi Bay, and South Lake, are eligible for agricultural funding. To be considered conserved and eligible for RCPP assistance, a farm only has to have a portion of the property conserved. The entire farm does not have to be conserved to be eligible for the program. All lands in the Lake Champlain Basin are eligible for forestry, wetland, and conservation easement funding. Priority will be given to those who are located in the 3 priority watersheds of St. Albans Bay, Missisquoi Bay, and South Lake. For the South Lake watershed priority, it does include both South Lake A and South Lake B watersheds. Through the RCPP, landowners and producers may receive up to 90% cost share for best management practices. NRCS will provide their standard payment rates, and the Vermont Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets will provide the difference to provide a cost share rate of up to 90%. Through the Lake Champlain RCPP, there is about $6.8 million for agricultural best management practices in Vermont and $846,000 for BMPs in the South Lake watershed of New York. All EQIP agricultural practices are available for funding, and Lake Champlain RCPP ranking criteria will be used for project selection. Farmers will apply for RCPP funds using the same process as regular EQIP. Farmers are encouraged to sign up for both RCPP and regular EQIP at the same time in case funds run out. Farms with expensive practices like manure pits and major infrastructure are encouraged to pursue regular EQIP. Farms that are also in the NRCS priority sub-watersheds are encouraged to sign up for those funds since those funds are greater. We will discuss the ranking criteria shortly, and a copy of the criteria can be found in the zip file. Individualized technical assistance is available through NRCS technical staff and RCPP conservation planners. A flowchart of responsibilities for NRCS staff and partners has been created that will help ensure clarity of tasks. This will be available at the NRCS offices, and I will touch upon this in future slides. About $358,000 is available for forestry funding best management practices. Practices eligible for funding are only those that have water quality impacts and include improving forest trails and landings, such as controlling soil erosion on logging roads, restoring riparian forest buffers, improving stream crossings, stabilizing stream crossings, and mulching. The photos on this slide are courtesy of Forest Parks and Rec. This is an example of improving an inadequate stream crossing under NRCS Practice 578 to reduce sedimentation and phosphorus loading. The stream channel was restored to its natural condition with an added benefit of improved aquatic organism passage. Also in the photos, it is an example of a perched culvert illustrating a problem, while the stone ford is illustrating the fix. Forest Parks and Rec has been promoting the use of stone fords and lightweight timber bridges built to NRCS design standards. A forestry handout is available in the zip file. There are technical assistance dollars available as well as financial assistance dollars in forestry, similar to the non-forestry EQIP programs. The Vermont Department of Forest, Parks, and Recreation has 2 foresters conducting outreach, assisting landowners with the NRCS application process, evaluating conservation practice opportunities, and where possible, implementing practices. Some engineering assistance may be needed from NRCS for forestry projects depending on the scope of the practice. Rick Dyer is located in the northern part of the Lake Champlain Basin, and AJ Fallensby in the southern. Another resource for forestry is Forest Parks and Recreation's watershed forester, Gary Sabrin. Their contact information is included in the forestry handout found in the zip file. Almost $4 million is available through the Agricultural Conservation Easement Program, ACEP. Through this program, agricultural and forestry landowners sell the development rights to a parcel of land, leaving it to be permanently managed as agricultural and forestry land use. An NRCS ACEP fact sheet is located in the zip file and can be found on the NRCS website. The 2014 Farm Bill requires that all newly conserved lands must have an agricultural land easement ALE plan. I will touch more upon this in a moment. NRCS and DEC have been working with VHCP and VLT partners as well as RCPP conservation planners through this program. Through the ACEP program, there is funding for wetland and agricultural easements. Agricultural easements can include up to 2/3 forested land cover. Per the 2014 Farm Bill, all newly conserved lands will be required to have an ALE plan. Ale plans are site-specific and promote the long-term viability of the land by sustainably managing the natural resources of the conserved land. The Ale plan identifies resource concerns and recommends conservation and management practices. Depending on the needs of the land use base being conserved, an Ale plan may contain a conservation plan, land treatment plan, a nutrient management plan, a comprehensive nutrient management plan, a forestry plan, and/or a grazing plan. Required conservation and management practices are identified in the Ale plan and must be adopted within 10 years of the signing of the easement. It is very important that the landowner understand his responsibilities through the Ale plan. The Ale plan is only required for the conserved parcel, but a goal of the RCPP program is to increase full farm conservation planning and that assistance will be offered to the landowner regardless of the size of the parcel. Technical assistance is available to those in the easement process. If for whatever reason they decide not to move forward with the easement, financial assistance will no longer be available, but technical assistance will still be available to help with the conservation practice work. The RCPP conservation planners are available to provide individualized technical assistance to landowners and will be working closely with them to develop the Ale plans needed for easements. One exciting new aspect of this RCPP is our ability to provide technical assistance in the form of a farm pre-assessment. These pre-assessments will help landowners understand potential resource concerns and get a general sense of what their responsibilities may be if they choose to move forward with the land conservation easement. For partners working through this program, we are developing an agricultural land easement flowchart, which will show the start-to-finish steps involved in land easement as well as identify which organization will do each step. In addition to the Ale flowchart, we are working with partners to develop an NRCS EQIP flowchart for NRCS and partner staff. This document will communicate the steps of the EQIP program and color coding to demonstrate which partner is responsible for each step. This slide shows a snapshot of the NRCS flowchart. These charts will be available soon and will be available in the NRCS field offices. This is the contact information for the 3 RCPP conservation planners, David Arnold, Justin Michaud, and Annalise Carrington. These technical assistance providers are under contract with DEC through the Vermont Association of Conservation Districts. They will be receiving direction from DEC and VACD to prioritize their work. Their first focus is to complete Ale plans for farms that are in the process of developing easements with VLT and VHCB, and to do pre-assessments on farms coming into that process to help the landowners get information as early as possible about what could be required in an Ale plan. They are also going to be responsible with NRCS staff for helping conserved farms apply for and implement conservation practices on their farms, either to fulfill an Ale plan requirement or as a water quality improvement requirement as suggested by agencies or partners. These conservation planners will also be trained in wetland and forestry. However, technical assistance in these programs will be provided by other technical assistance staff such as foresters, NRCS staff, and partners. Landowners and producers interested in the Lake Champlain RCPP should go to their closest NRCS field office for information about signing up if they are not already working with a planner, and then a planner will be assigned to them. There is about $920,000 available through the Wetlands Reserve Easement Program, WRE. Through this program, NRCS works with partners to provide resources to implement high-priority wetland protection and restoration projects. The Vermont Clean Water Initiative Program, a program of DEC's Watershed Management Division, has developed a wetlands calculator to determine above and beyond incentives for landowners. These incentive payments help to make the act of taking cropland out of production financially feasible. The Clean Water Initiative Program just released a request for proposals, RFP, to contract a consultant to assist NRCS and partners with prioritizing key wetland restoration projects for outreach, project development, and implementation. The RFP can be found in the zip file. There is a great NRCS wetland restoration short film available on YouTube. Follow the link on this slide to watch. So let's talk about the criteria that determine how projects are prioritized for selection. As discussed before, conserved land or land approved for conservation easement funding that fall in the 3 target watersheds are available for agricultural EQIP funding. All lands in the Lake Champlain Basin are eligible for Forestry, WRE, and ASEP funding. Higher ranking is given to applications that fall in the 3 target watersheds of St. Albans Bay, Missisquoi Bay, and South Lake. Higher points are given to farms with less than 200 mature cows. For those who may not know, 200 mature cows is the bovine threshold for medium farm operation permit requirements. Higher points are given to agricultural applications based on the percentage of fields with high or very high erosion risk potential. Higher points are given to applications based on the number of and diversity of the practices included in the application that will reduce phosphorus pollution. Higher points are given to applications that include the implementation of agronomic or cropland management practices that will provide increased soil erosion reduction or soil health benefit beyond current management. Higher points are given to applications that include direct and indirect discharge mitigation, address water quality concerns within 100 feet of blue line streams, address livestock exclusion, and/or assist landowners with compliance of state and federal laws. The ranking criteria is available through the NRCS field offices. Now we'll share some information from Mike Middleman from the Vermont Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets about the Vermont Environmental Stewardship component of the Lake Champlain RCPP. The Vermont Environmental Stewardship Program is currently under development and will focus on nutrient balancing, feed management, and improving soil health, all within the context of whole farm conservation planning. We plan to launch this program this coming summer 2016. Through this program, farms will be required to meet criteria set by the USDA NRCS Resource Stewardship Planning Tool, the Vermont Apex Tool, and the Cornell Soil Health Test. This target program will target the same geographic area as RCPP, with the hopes of expanding to statewide basis when we expand to a full program. There will be a separate application process, but RCPP applicants will be able to check a box indicating interest in the program once the program is launched. Participants that complete the specified criteria will be rewarded with recognition and financial-based incentives. This program will be finalized over the coming months, so stay tuned as we gear up for rolling out this program this summer. We have created a general and forestry-specific handout that is available for sharing. These 2 resources can be found in the zip file. The general RCPP handout is also available on the Vermont NRCS website. Additional outreach materials include NRCS EQIP, WRE, and ASEP information, which can also be found in the zip file. Primary outreach for the Lake Champlain RCPP in Vermont will be to conserved lands or those in the process of a land easement in the priority watersheds, potential easements with surface water proximity or high impact potential, previously identified priority wetland projects, farms in the priority areas with significant water quality improvement potential, and forest landowners in the Lake Champlain Basin with water quality improvement potential. In New York, primary outreach will be to agricultural producers in the South Lake watershed with the most severe water quality concerns. Secondary outreach for the Lake Champlain RCPP of Vermont will be for the focused implementation of AIL plans and the development for AIL plans for prior conserved farms and water quality improvement needs on prior conserved farms who do already have AIL plans. With all of these efforts to improve waters of the Lake Champlain Basin, it is likely that ground disturbing practices will occur. It is important that measures are taken to protect cultural resources. Cultural resources are the remains of past human activity and are considered a natural resource, just like clean water, wetlands, and forests. An NRCS cultural resource review is required when any NRCS-funded groundbreaking practices are being installed or where any disturbance of the land occurs below the plow line. Any projects using RCPP grant funding must have a cultural resource review per NRCS standards. Questions regarding cultural resource reviews should be directed to Jacob Clay of NRCS. An NRCS cultural resource fact sheet is available on the NRCS website and in the zip file. All producers and landowners seeking technical and/or financial assistance under the Lake Champlain RCPP will need to complete the application and information release form. This should be administered by the first person working with them. A hard copy should be filed with NRCS, and an electronic copy should be sent to myself at allison.campania@vermont.gov. This form serves two purposes. It allows technical assistance staff to access information that will help to implement voluntary conservation practices, and will also acknowledge that the landowner or producer is seeking assistance under the Lake Champlain RCPP versus the regular NRCS programs or other RCPP grants. Landowners should understand that this form allows sharing of information, but does not allow for any regulatory action. Specifically for NRCS and RCPP conservation planner staff, for landowners applying for the Lake Champlain RCPP funds through NRCS, there is a RCPP CPA 1200 form. For NRCS staff, the RCPP specific CPA 1200 will be found in the zip file. All other NRCS documents and forms can be found through the regular channels. Contact Bob Sylvester if you have any questions regarding forms. The Lake Champlain RCPP is funded with NRCS grant money, and much of the way this program works is very similar to the traditional NRCS process, which can leave some wondering, how is this program different? There is the opportunity for up to 90% cost share with the help from the Vermont Agency of Agriculture. One of the greatest benefits is the increased availability of help for the landowner. There are technical assistance providers in the form of NRCS staff, RCPP conservation planners, and Forest Parks and Rec foresters that are available to provide individualized support. The Lake Champlain RCPP is also striving to reduce the number of people the landowner or producer has to work with by having one person be the go-between for the producer and the services they are interested in. Through the Lake Champlain RCPP, there is continuous sign-up. The next agricultural deadline is February 19th, 2016. Another big item is that agricultural applications will only be competing against other applications from conserved lands in the 3 target watersheds. That is a largely reduced pool of competitors and more likelihood of receiving up to 90% cost share funding. There is the Lake Champlain RCPP ranking criteria. As discussed before, this criteria will help to get funding to projects that will most help to reduce phosphorus pollution and get resources to those who have been most underserved in the past. Administratively, there are a couple changes here. The applicant sign-up process is the same as traditional EQIP. However, the RCPP applicant and information release form and the CPA 1200 application are RCPP specific. All of the partners who are providing financial and or in-kind match will have an agreement or memorandum of understanding, MOU, with DEC. More specifically, partners who committed match in their letters of support for the RCPP grant when the proposal was submitted in October of 2014 will have these agreements. Currently, the development of these agreements is ongoing, and we are reaching out to partners individually. These agreements will run for the duration of the grant, 5 years, with an annual update based on the partner's annual scope of work. We understand that budgets shift, so in the MOU we include that match may vary from year to year, as long as all of the match committed is spent and reported on by the end of the grant. Match for the RCPP grant cannot be matched for any other state and or federal program. This is to prevent double dipping or double counting of funds, and is a requirement of the RCPP grant and of the State of Vermont Business Office. Financial and narrative reports of partner match is required. Financial and narrative reporting of match will come in the form of quarterly reports. This grant is based on the federal fiscal year, and match reports are due the 15th day following the end of each federal fiscal quarter. So that means financial and narrative match reports are due October 15th, January 15th, April 15th, and July 15th of each year, unless otherwise specified in the MOU. Match reporting will begin shortly after the MOU between the partner and DEC is signed. Match reporting forms are located in the zip file, and I will send out reminders near the end of each quarter. Financial match reporting will be completed using the Form 430M. This form separates match into staff time, activity, mileage, etc. This form must be completed and sent to myself as a PDF, including a signature. Partners will be responsible for holding supporting financial data of these reports. The narrative reporting is less formal, as we want to leave room to capture all the great work of our partners. Narrative reports may include information such as technical assistance provided, conservation practices planned and/or implemented, photos, mailing, information sharing, fostering of unique partnerships, and beyond. This is the conclusion of the presentation portion of the webinar. Thank you for watching. A question and answer document is available in the zip file. Please email myself at allison.campagna@vermont.gov if you are interested.